Okay,
All
well,
right, well, balls in your court, Dan. You invited me to be on your show. Let's get this thing cracking. Fuck.
need we say more? That's the fucking introduction done. That's the introduction done. Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Thomas in the house here for the the rising of the Phoenix. I'm back on board this year. Um, Patrick Thomas is joining us tonight for the first in a little while of the Dirt episodes to be put out. But that's because we've got some mega news to talk about and some hype to bring to an event later on in the year, which we will get to in all good time. Um,
Right.
there are a few things happening this year, just getting this out there. We've got another World Champs coming up in South Africa. So if you are getting this before then and you're listening to this, go support that. And also go support the event that we will be talking about very, very soon. So
Thank you.
I met you
Yeah.
in person for the first time almost a year to the day, if not a year.
Yeah, a year to the day. Yeah, that was showing up in my feed today was the shots from Moab. This time last year, we were in Moab.
Yeah. So
Crazy, right?
it seems so long ago, but I feel like if I close my eyes, I can still see it very, very clearly.
It's been a
Some
big
of the
year.
it
It's
was
been a
the
productive year.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us.
Yeah,
Really
glad to be
appreciate you
here.
giving up the time here. It's
Yeah.
taken a little while to get you on, but then I have had my foot off the pedal as well, with quite a bit going on in my own life.
Yeah.
Um, Slogs was unable to join us tonight. He will hopefully come up in future episodes again, and he sends his love to all the mountain board community. But yeah, let's talk about Patrick Thomas.
All
Uh,
right.
where in the world are you joining us from, Patrick?
I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado, so north of Denver.
Hmm.
We're about 40 miles south of the Wyoming border. So they call it NOCO, Northern Colorado, Fort Collins, FOCO, NOCO. That's where my humble abode is. Got a little flat up here in Old Town, Fort Collins, and this is where I make the magic happen.
So, in the heartlands, in the state of invention of mountain
Hmm.
boarding, um, and been in the scene since pretty much Genesis days. Dave.
Pretty much, yeah. I came home from college in May of '96, and it was a beautiful summer. I ended up going to this thing called Board Fest. It was a 3 day skateboard, snowboard, wakeboard event happening, and I went to the snowboarding day at A Basin Ski Resort and was walking through the parking lot, and there it was, Charlie Lee and some mountain boards laying on the ground, and it was just an instant manifestation of the things that I had been seeing in my head for so many years. I had spent the last 2 years in college. I was in Missouri. I brought my snowboard out there, and I would go out into the woods in the summertime and ride my snowboard through the trees down the dry grassy runs, beating the fuck out of myself. And so yeah, so I came home, boom, there's a mountain board. There's this cute girl talking about mountain boards, and it was like, that moment where it's like, oh, the light shines down from the sky, the sea parts, and the vision is manifested in physical form. And I rolled it around. And later that week, I went down to MBS and bought my first board. I want to say that receipt date was June 21st of '96. Revolution Series frame board. Those were the flat decks on there. A week later from that moment, I went back down there and became the sales rep for Colorado and the region and got my complete kit of boards. That's what this is showing, is all the boards on top of my car showing up and trying to hustle those things. So that's the summer of 1996. That was 30 years ago.
That's
And it's
a
been
long ass time for a lot of
it's,
people.
it's been a journey, I tell you. It's been a long journey. So yeah, so you said Genesis, and that's definitely, they had just uh the spring of '96 was the first trade show that MBS had exhibited at. So that was literally the moment they entered the commercial space.
Yeah.
And that's where I got involved. So did that, by the following year. Well, that was spring. So I think by fall, I ended up moving down to Colorado Springs and running the sales desk. And, you know, that was the early days. So I was on the phone negotiating with Max Track,
Hmm.
the distributor there in the United Kingdom, that first order of boards.
That would have been back with the Mitchell
That,
Inneses, the Ian Mitchell Innes days.
yeah, with Ian, yeah, and that was the roots. That's when I got involved in it. So that
Yeah.
was 96. Dirt Duel 96 happened that year at Snow Valley Ski Resort 30 years ago, and that's what we're celebrating this year with the Dirty 30 is the 30 years of mountain boarding events here in North America.
That's
It's
it.
something.
Isn't it just? That's it, the Dirty 30. Um,
Yeah.
being held at Cedar Ledge.
Yep, Cedar Ledge, man. Central Pennsylvania, north of Williamsport. We got the downhill, we got the border cross.
And what's the date on that?
It's July 11th and 12th.
July 11th and 12th. So people get out
Yep.
over there to Cedar Ledge for that this year.
Yep.
Um,
So we
it's
can get into the specifics of the event as we move on. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that's where I started in this,
uh-huh.
with
And
MBS
at the
Mount.
cutting edge as well, competing,
Yep.
demoing. Uh,
So like here's a classic one that's been on my fridge that we found recently from so this is 90. This is 98. This is Meltdown series. So the first series of mountain boards that came out from MBS Mountain Boards was the Revolution series.
right.
That was 96 Revolution series. 97 was the Meltdown series. Then we went into the Unibody series, and that was Revolution Meltdown. Whatever. So this is frame boards, and these were factory. Did these factory days like into summer, right before fall kicked in. Little demo warehouse sale down at the warehouse on 1275 Vapor Trail. Now, can you see that? Is
Uh,
that picking?
it, I think it picked up certain parts of it. Yes, yes. Now I can.
There it is. There it is. That works. So
Oh,
that's
nice.
frame board jumping over. That was my car. That's what it looked like when I showed up in front of the freaking shops with the beat up freaking Toyota and a ski rack full of freaking mountain boards, like 120 pounds worth of mountain boards on the roof of the car. Be like, yeah, this is the future, man. People are like, they kind of weigh a lot, kind of expensive. Doing it all, yeah.
Yeah.
Riding, competing, producing events. Jay and I were producing the local events down there in Colorado Springs, and then the big event, Snow Valley in '96 was the first. That was huge. That was JSP, John Sandy Productions, who did the event production on that. And I was just watching how it all went down, and then as time progressed into '97, '98. Is when I left MBS and had the TV contract with XS TV, produced the Mile High Dirt Board Across Battles in 1999 and got that aired on Extreme Sport Television. So that was like 6 episodes we did there, and just kind of kept at it, doing the thing.
I remember having the Extreme Sports channel, and in fact, I remember going myself back in what would have been 2000 to
Mhm.
one of that iconic logo that they had there, an Extreme Games event in Sydney,
Mhm.
Australia, back in 2000, which I
Okay.
think then went on to become the X Games.
That sounds about right. XSTV wasn't associated with ESPN back at that time. That was just a show aired on whichever network it was. I kind of
Mm.
forget. Um, so yeah, so that was 99, 2000, I believe, is when we started the Chaos in Kansas. Zach Eberly had gotten in touch with Mitchy Boy, there at MBS because after I left, Mitchy Boy came in and was doing the trade show circuit like I had been doing. And Mitchy Boy was, he was one of the first people I showed at Mountainboard when I came back from Colorado Springs that day, and then rode with him and I. But anyway, him and I ended up out there on Easter weekend building the course with Zach. I want to say that's 2000, 2001, and then produced the Chaos in Kansas series for better part of 8 years, 8 or 9 years. And intermittently, then we had the Dirtheads tour, we had the whole Dirtheads evolution. We had, just event side of stuff that I've been doing. We had the US Open at Snowmass, did that for 8 or 9 years. I was running brackets for that. Mitchy Boy was point on all of that. And now that we're re-evolving, the revolution has brought it all back.
Tell us, Patrick, how did Dirtheads come to be back in the day?
Dirtheads, I found Don Baker and the Dirtheads Mountainboard team in pit row in 97. So we had Dirt Duel 96, Dirt Duel 97. So Dirt Duel 97, by that time, things were kind of factionalized because you had your manufacturer teams, and human nature makes you go tribal. And I was with the MBS team, and I'm walking around, and I found the Dirtheads Mountainboard team, and it's a team of all types of riders. You had the Outback riders; those were the three-wheel boards. For those of you not familiar with Outbacks, you had Earth boards, you had hard wheelers, you had what else was out? Terraboard riders out there. So it was a team of all the boards being represented, and I was like, fuck yeah, you were my people, and Don and I just naturally connected, and we started talking, and I was just super stoked on them, maintained a relationship while I was still at MBS, did everything I could for them from MBS. It was always kind of limited what we could do, because we couldn't do everything for everybody, and grow as a company. So we could do what we could do. And hooked up with them whenever I was in California, which was a lot in those airs. And then as I left MBS, it was like, yeah, I'm rolling with the Dirtheads, and got on board as a team rider and maintained the relationship over the course of the years. And then as the re-evolution started happening, I was always just representing it as Dirtheads Mountainboarding, everything that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the event came into my lap, I had to produce it on behalf of Dirtheads Mountainboarding. And then Don and Kevin turned it all over to me and told me to do with it what I want. And what you're witnessing now is what I'm doing with Dirtheads Mountainboarding. We're creating events. We're supporting the riders. We're taking it to the media and taking it around the world. So we can get into a lot more details on what that actually looks like as we go into our next segment.
Yeah.
Time for a commercial.
All I can see is your background at the moment. Are you still there, or are you just off camera?
Yeah, I'm just walking around, letting you take that picture in. That's one of my favorite pictures right there. That's me and Don Baker out in Kansas.
Now, what is the necklace on the very shiny shirt?
That's Metlar. He's my protector. Metlar's been with me since I was a teenager, and I turned him into a freaking what you see there, and took him on the road with me to protect us as we travailed across America. And he's like this little gargoyle guy. He's pretty fucking cool, But that day right there, that was the last Chaos in Kansas that we did. When Chaos in Kansas started, I was a bachelor. And when I got to that day right there, I had a wife and kids, and had my kids there. And that day I told myself when I packed up to head out there with the family, told myself is if I make it to the final, I'm rocking the silver suit. And I ran 3 clean that day and took every heat. Got to the final, put on the silver suit, and took home the gold with my kids on the track. It was pretty fucking cool. And that's me and Don Baker celebrating our final heat there at the top of the hill. So
Nice.
that's what that is.
It must be a proud, proud father moment to do it in front
It
of
was
your
it
kids.
was it was a good day in the dirt, you know. Some days are better than others when you get out there. So, and what was even better was I didn't have to run the show that day. I got to show up and ride. I ran the brackets, but I didn't have to run the show. It wasn't my production, so that was it was good to step back and do that day.
Tell us a bit more about the sort of inception of Dirtheads and how that's moving on into the compression of the diamond, the
Yeah, the
next
compression.
generation, the
Yeah, yeah,
reincarnation.
yeah. You tapped into it right there. That's rocks and dirt compress over time and turn into diamonds. The dirt diamond represents 30 years of mountain board history. And so I'm really proud to bring that to the forefront as a product line, as our imaging into the 21st century. Well, we're well into the 21st century. What am I saying? But
Hmm.
yeah, it's cool. So Dirtheads Mountain Boarding was established in 1997. Don Baker, Kevin Delaney, as a team of independent riders that rode, um, and they represented all the manufacturers. You had Outback riders, you had hard wheel riders, you had Earthboard, Terraboard, MBS, and it was just a really cool thing. And I gravitated to that with them. And, once I left MBS back in those days, joined them as a team rider, stayed with them throughout the course of time, and ended up, through all the occurrences and things that happened over the course of time. Don and Kevin turned over Dirtheads Mountainboarding to me, and today what you see is what it's evolved into. It is a legitimate global lifestyle brand. I'm standing on the ground of an actual business. We have our merchandise line. We promote riders. We do the events. That's my expertise that I brought into this is the event production. And now we're moving into the media landscape, and are working on we are implementing this 5-year plan to re-evolve our sport
Mhm.
here in North America and across the world. We've got this event scheduled. This year we're doing the Dirty 30-year celebration of mountain boarding in North America, 2026, July 11th and 12th, Cedar Ledge, Pennsylvania. I'm on an event cycle where we're going to be doing the Dirty every other year on the even years. So this is 26. So 28, we'll be back to Cedar Ledge, Pennsylvania, doing the downhill, doing the electric uphill, doing the border cross, doing the freestyle. And I'm contracted with the guys out there to do it through 2030. So 2030 we'll be back doing the big event. And I intentionally spread out this event cycle every other year from experience of doing events every year, and the hardships and the lessons that we learned from trying to do that every year. But what that does for Dirtheads mountain boarding and what we're doing, it gives me those even years to film, to
Mhm.
promote my riders, to support, promote, and help out the local, regional, and international events on the world scale. Give my riders a chance to focus on getting out to other places outside of North America, ideally, and build towards the big event and the even years. It's a very comfortable pace. And now that we're coming back, we did the intergalactic planetary in 24, and this pace is very comfortable and allows us to really um, implement effectively. So that's the event cycle. We've got, like I said, we're doing the events. We've got the merchandise line. You've seen the Dirt Diamond line.
That's it. It's a good way for everybody to sort of give back and not just give back, but sort of ensure the future of the events. Putting events on, it costs. There's no hiding it. It costs money to do those things. It costs time in the organisers, and all of that. It's hard to come by in the modern world. So the way that we as a community can support is by getting involved in supporting the brand, if you like, to help enable
Right,
put these
right,
put
right.
these events on them. Because without them, they're great community building exercises, the events, but to to truly to truly have a community, there's more than just one event, isn't there?
There's
Uh,
more than one event. Yeah, and the one thing you didn't mention about the events is what a fucking pain in the ass it is putting on an event. People show up and they want to cry and start nitpicking at you on the day of the event. It's like, give me a break, dude. It is no joke to put on an event. Just to say that out loud.
Yeah, man,
But
it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Hold it,
it's
putting on
it's
events.
not. It's a lot of work. I can't tell you how many years of doing the big event that I didn't get to ride.
Mm,
The majority of the events we did in Snowmass, I did not get to ride,
mm,
and that was tough. That was kind of a bitter pill. But that's part of the game of being an event producer. And that's what I was trying to do. I don't
yeah,
know.
I mean, it sucks. Since we've
We're,
been doing the
but you've
there it
been there
is.
too.
There's the
You've
flag.
put on your fair share of events, so you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
we're doing the live recordings as well over the last couple of years.
Right,
Has obviously meant that I haven't necessarily managed to properly ride, and when I have, you can't,
right,
you like might jump away and get a couple of downhill runs put in,
yeah,
but
right.
you're not in the zone or anything
You're
for
not
that
in the
then.
zone. Yeah, yeah.
Um, you know,
Worried about the brackets and everything else. So yeah, it's tough. But it's what I do for the community.
mhm,
From the early days, it was how I got into this. I don't know. It just it's that natural human things. You put 12 monkeys in a cage. One of the monkeys is going to start organizing the other monkeys to get the shit done, and I'm that monkey, evidently, or I wouldn't be here doing this today, and I'm okay with that. I'm good at it. And it's just kind of naturally what happened. So that's the big piece of Dirtheads Mountainboarding right now, is producing the big events for the community, because our community is centered around the ridership. We got team riders, we got Ali Kano, we got Logan Grog, we got Antonio Mazzieria representing for us. And there's only so much that I can do for these guys at this point, because we're in a building phase, right? We're building these events, we're building out the merchandise line. Um, the event is the catalyst, and so, like I told you, we do the events every other year. And the odd number of years, we support and promote the riders and the local, regional, international events. And it all feeds itself. Everything supports everything else within this environment that I've created, that I've established, this pillar that I stand upon. And you're going to hear it. You're going to see it. We are making things happen. That's all
nice.
I got to say about that. But yeah, so the Dirty 30s, the Dirty is the big event here in North America. We kind of touched on that a little bit already, but let's talk about what is the Dirty 30. The
Yeah,
Dirty
man.
is, like
Exactly
I
that.
said,
So, what as a competitor hoping to turn up to this year's event at Cedar Ledge, what can they expect? We've already established we've got a downhill, a border cross, a freestyle, and an electric event
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But the guys at
So
Cedar
so
Ledge,
yeah, so how does this all work? First off, this takes place in Cedar Ledge, Pennsylvania. Cedar Ledge is north of Williamsport, Pennsylvania. It's smack dab in the middle of the state. Williamsport, Pennsylvania, if you don't know, is the home of the Little League World Series. If you're a fan of baseball, you probably heard this. If you exist in America, you've heard this. It's a thing. Little League World Series it's a thing, and it happens in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Well, Cedar Ledge is north of Williamsport, Pennsylvania. It's about 45 minutes of a drive. But the simple fact is, the thing that you need to know is that Williamsport is the place that you want to look at for hotels and lodging. Cedar Ledge, Pennsylvania is about this big. There's not, you may be able to find some hotel rooms. Uh, there's not much offering in terms of that. It's a small community. So Williamsport, Pennsylvania is where you're going to look for lodging and stuff. You'll want to fly into either Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. You can look into landing in Rochester or Syracuse, New York. That would be north of the event. No matter which airport you fly into, you are 4 to 6 hours of a drive to get to Williamsport. And that's not necessarily so much because of the physical distance between the 2 points, but the nature of the terrain in Pennsylvania. It's a lot of hills, it's a lot of winding turns. It's hard driving. So give yourself time, think about that. That's where the place is. Cedar Ledge, Pennsylvania now is the home of the Cedar Ledge Rocks Dirt Bordercross course. And that is the homestead of Curtis Kelly and his family. Curtis Kelly is a 5th generation apple farmer in Cedar Ledge, Pennsylvania. The homestead there it's a beautiful, scenic piece of America there. He's got his apple orchard. He owns the mountain that overlooks the apple orchard. And on that mountain, beneath the canopy of those trees, is where this mountain board course has been carved out of that mountain since 99 is when they started building that course. I think our first event was back in 2000, 2001. We went on tour, so the East Coast ATB, Frank Beleza, and those guys, Cedar Ledge was one of the stops there. Curtis Kelly was the sales rep for MBS Mountain Boards in that region. Curtis Kelly came out to Colorado Springs, and him and I spent some time together because I was his boss. I was the sales manager, and we've maintained a very strong bond over this past 30 years. And that's where we're going to do our border cross course. Now the downhill is actually on a different mountain. It's down the road in a little place called Roaring Fork, and that's Carnage's. That's Greg Carnage's property. So here we have another property, another homestead. Carnage's property sits on 110 acres out there. Carnage's house that he lives in, that house was actually part of the Underground Railroad back in the day. Yeah. So we got some deep history here. And so the downhill course starts up the mountain from Carnage's back door, and it comes down the ridgeline through forested glades into open meadows and takes a hard chicane down a fire road that's fast and furious. You're going to shit your pants and you are going to talk to God. It's that fast. And then that dumps out into the village of Roaring Fork onto pavement through a wicked chicane, and you finish in town. It's a little over a mile.
Nice.
So we're going to do this thing. We're going to do the downhill and the uphill on Saturday in Roaring Fork at Camp Carnage for the downhill. So that'll be Saturday, 9 a.m. is when we'll gather there. We'll do the racer meeting, any last minute registration that we need to do. And by God, we'll get to registration before this is over. And we'll get the day started, put the downhill racers to the top of the hill, put the electric uphill riders at the bottom of the course, and then somebody's going to come down the mountain and somebody's going to go up the mountain. They're going to go down the mountain and up the mountain. And like I said earlier, if you're doing both divisions, you're going to be doing a lot of riding that day, and we're going to figure it out. We did the downhill, the inaugural downhill in 24. We had this awesome Humvee toting people back to the top. It was a beautiful thing. So that'll be Saturday, July 11th, that we do the downhill and the uphill at Camp Carnage. We'll be giving you more specific directions to get to the property as time comes. We have to respect the property owners. I can't have a bunch of people showing up early, deciding they're going to get their early runs and do that type of thing, because this is private property. Okay. And this is where people live and have their private time. So that's Saturday, July 11th, July 12th. Now that's when we're getting into my favorite part, the border cross and the freestyle. We're mixing up the schedule of events this year. And we're going to do the freestyle first thing in the morning. So 9 o'clock, we'll meet at the base of the mountain, do a quick meeting. By God, we shouldn't be having anybody showing up to register on Sunday morning. But if we do, I'm going to give you a hard time and get you registered so you can do the thing. But we're going to start with freestyle in the morning. We run our freestyle as in kind of jam format, so we're going to set 45 minutes to an hour, depending on, how many people we have. That what experience has shown me is that that's plenty of time. And as many times you can get yourself up there and up and over the hill, God bless you, make it happen.
Yeah.
And then we'll.
Is that going to be best two runs count or best?
No, it'll be an overall judge's impression. So like I said, it'll be a jam format. If you get more runs than the other guy, well, that's up to you. Really what the judges are going to be looking for is, overall judge's impression, amplitude, style, technicality. It's not rocket science. Okay. And that'll be the freestyle. And then we move into my favorite of favorites, the border cross. I've always enjoyed the hell out of racing border cross, running the brackets and making it happen is, that's my bread and butter right there. So we'll run them up to the top of the hill and we'll get them going. You're going to get, I think we'll probably just seed people on, well, no, we won't be able to do that. Yeah, we'll have to do a timed run, I guess. We'll just kind of see how we feel, over the course of time. The timed run for seeding really doesn't mean all that much in the grand scheme of things in terms of implementing the event. It's certainly a lot easier just to do the inverted alphabet, get them into the brackets and let it sort itself out. Because we do here in North America, what we do is we do a double elimination bracketing system. So what that means is in your first heat, you will place either first, second, third, or fourth, because it's a 4-man bracket, right? First and second people, they go into the upper bracket. Ones and twos will be racing each other until we have 2 final competitors in that upper bracket. The thirds and the fourth place finishers, they go to the lower bracket, the consolation bracket. All of those racers are going to be racing each other, 4-man heats. And just like in the upper bracket, the ones and the twos will keep advancing. Once you make it to the consolation bracket, if you place a third or a fourth, that's your second loss, the third or a fourth, right?
Yeah.
So in the consolation bracket, the ones and the twos keep advancing. And then lo and behold, what we end up with is 2 riders in the upper bracket, 2 riders from the lower bracket going into the final heat. And that's how we do dirt border cross here in North America. So the final is the final. You make it to the final, that's the final.
Yeah.
There has been many a champion that has worked their way through the first couple of heats, got bumped down into consoles, and battled their way back to the podium. It's pretty cool. And I like how we do it. So that's how we do our border cross. And from experience, once it gets going, it has a life of its own, man. It's fun to watch. And it kind of stalls out here and there, it's a long way from the finish line to the top of the hill. But that's gonna be how it's gonna unfold. So that's July 12th at the border cross course. So to kind of put a cherry on top of all that, July 11th, we'll be doing the downhill and the uphill. July 12th will be the freestyle and the border cross.
Nice.
So let's go back to the registration thing, right?
Did you
pick up on that?
Talk us through the registration.
Yeah. We're real close to launching pre-registration. We will be putting that out there hopefully in the next 2 weeks. But the goal at this day and age is to move into day 1 of the event and have everybody registered. So when you show up, all you got to do is check in and get your goodies at the registration table and verify that you're there. Instead of dragging down the process of implementing the event by people doing the hand registration at the start line on race day. How that's going to work, we're going to find out. Will it be a perfect execution? Probably not. Will it be pretty close to a perfect execution? Maybe. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But the incentive for you guys that are coming out to the event is that with your pre-registration, registration $65. I don't know what you guys charge over there, but it's $65. It's all or none. You know, if you're only racing one of the formats, it's $65. If you're racing two of the formats, it's $65. If you're racing all four of the formats, it's $65.
Too simple. Keep it simple.
Pretty simple. But what I'm going to do this year, this will be the last year that it's such a low price. I can guarantee you that. But this year, in honor of the Dirty 30, oh, let me put that on the list of stuff I need to send you. We are going to, for people that pre-register, we're going to include the event t-shirt.
Nice.
In the cost. If you show up on race day and you have to register on race day, it's going to be $65 to register, and the event t-shirt is going to be $35. Do the math. That's what I'm giving you for an incentive. And then you can take a look at the graphics. What the cool thing about the graphics is this. Jason T. Lee, my man at MVS, we just got together recently. I've got a piece coming out about this. But Jay was gracious enough to revamp the artwork from the Dirt Duel 96 t-shirts and the Dirt Duel 97 t-shirts. And that's what we were presenting for the Dirty 30-year celebration of mountain boarding in North America. Is we've got two t-shirts. We're going to have a girl's t-shirt, and it's going to be the original artwork from the Dirt Duel 96 and the Dirt Duel 97, created by Jason T. Lee, founder of MBS Mountain Boards.
Awesome.
How fucking cool is that, right? Yeah, that feels good to be putting out there. You know, that feels real good. So this, once again, this is a culmination of 30 years of mountain boarding, 30 years of mountain boarding event experience coming together in Cedar Ledge, Pennsylvania. The final big drop for you guys is this. We're filming. Left Coast Media House is filming the Dirty 30 and all the shenanigans that are happening around the event. And we're going to be putting together a top-notch 30, 45-minute piece of the event that's going to be ready to air, giving these guys 60 days from the event to have that finalized and produced. Soundtrack for the event, we've got Hillbilly Riot, drummer for Hillbilly Riot, Phil Sheeter, Altitude Sickness, that produced the Altitude Cup in Empire, Colorado for 6-7 years. His band, we got them on board. We've got Brother Good, Brandon Goods band. I've got Big Patty, Sean Goggin, Irish folk band for sound. And I've got Carolyn Kunkel's band providing sound for us. Sharp Violets, name of that band, for soundtrack to go on the video.
And these are big hitter names from way back when. Everybody's coming out for this.
This is full fucking circle. You know who else? You know, another full circle story that I like to tell about the event. Back in the early days, the early races at Cedar Ledge, you had the East Coast ATB. Right? Did you interview Frank Beleza?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Well, you'll see on the event poster, Blue Wire Projects. That's Frank Beleza's company.
Okay.
Frank Beleza called me and reached out to me and said, PT, I want to sponsor the event. That's full circle right there. Yeah. Another full circle story, the Left Coast Media House connection. The guy, Levi Allen from Left Coast Media, he was trained up as a filmmaker by none other than Josh Nepper.
The scabby and Josh Nepper. Is that
That guy.
is that on
That's
the
Josh Nepper right there.
nice?
This is Kansas Elements Tour. This is 2001. This is the beginning of the tour, 2001. But yeah, I reached out to Josh Nepper and was like, Josh, what's up? And we talked about what we're doing. And wham bam, thank you, man. Uh, now we got production. Another thing, I can drop. I just got so much to tell you guys about. Check this out. So, for the event, Dirty 30, when the way we break things up as far as the divisions, right? We talked about the formats, downhill, uphill, freestyle, border cross. We only do 2 divisions here in North America, and it's open pro.
Mm-hmm.
If you would, the human mind needs a name to put to this. It's the open pro.
Right.
It's the advanced riders, if you're, because there's really, this day and age, I mean, there's a handful of you guys over there that can really say that you're a pro rider, that are making money, have lucrative sponsorship deals. I'm sure it's like, you might be able to go out and get pancakes at 3 a.m. if you want to on that payout, but that's speaking from experience there. I don't know. But there's really, the pro rider thing is not, it's not that big of a thing in reality, right? Another thing Dirtheads Mountainboarding will work to establish. But as far as the race divisions go, we got the Open Pro. That's one division, right? That's if you're an advanced rider, you're comfortable at speed, you've got race experience, you've been in the game for a while, you're going to race the Pro division. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how young you are. If you're an advanced rider, you're going to race in the Open Pro division. And then everybody else races in the Open non-pro.
The Open AMs.
The other, I don't want to call it amateur division, so I call it Open non-pro. Don't like the nomenclature?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel you. That's how we do it. There's not enough ridership for us to justify breaking it down any further than that, except for one other thing. If we have 3 or more female riders, we will have a female division. 3 or more to justify making a division. Okay.
Yeah.
2 or less, you race where you want to race, pro or non-pro. And what's beautiful about this whole event, and another really super beautiful thing that I get to tell the world right here on the Dirt Podcast, is that in the Open Pro division, across all 4 formats, first, second, and third place, we're paying you out $300, $200, $100 of cold hard cash.
Nice. Can easily be spent on cider
That
from
means
the apple
that means
farms.
you get to buy beer for the team. Is usually how that works out. But I'll let you decide with that. So if you clean house, you're going home with $1,200 in cold hard cash. Now the big thing is, not only did I secure cash sponsorship to pay out the pro division, but if there's 3 or more women, I will always pay out the women's division in kind. So in the women's division, we're paying out first place $300 cash. In the women's division, second place, we're paying out $200 cash. Third place, women's division, I'm paying you out $100 cash across all the formats that you choose to ride in, as long as there's 3 of you, at least 3 of you in there. So that's what's happening at the Dirty 30 there this year, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can be there. If you haven't been there yet, this is a place that you need to see. If you can't make it out this year, totally get it. It's out there in the middle of the woods. You have an opportunity to come back in 2028 and in 2030. Okay? This is a place that, as a mountain board rider, this is a place that you must make a pilgrimage to.
You've
need to come out.
You've
and
turned
ride
the
this
screw
course.
on me there now, haven't you?
I certainly had. Not only you, every single one of you out there. I don't care where you're from. I don't care how far it is. You got to come and ride Cedar Ledge. After 2030, there's going to be lots of things happening. This is what I'm building towards. This is what Dirtheads Mountainboarding is building towards. By the time we get to 2030, we should be realizing some great success.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me and PT Patrick Thomas from Dirtheads for this episode of the Dirt Mountainboard podcast. Join us again for another episode, again, in the not too distant future. You guys and girls will be seeing Patrick Thomas at the registration in Cedar Ledge this year. It's going to be a wicked event, so make sure you get over to it and go show your support for the scene.
Way aye, man. That was dead canny as out, that like. Cheers for tuning out to listen. Now, before you go yem, don't forget, if you want to keep getting doing with the Dirty Dirt fun, like and subscribe. Get amongst it. Shy Ben's getting out.